So Joe, Caleb is not exactly one to go to sporting events. He's in marching band at Enloe, and that's because Kelly and I have been very much like, you got to do something, all right? And if you can't think of something, well, guess what? It's marching band. You're pretty good at trumpet and other musical instruments, regardless. But all of a sudden, he didn't want to go to a football game other than he had to march. He didn't want to go to any sort of basketball games. But all of a sudden, he hits me up. He's like, hey, man, can you take me to the factory out in Wake Forest? I go, why? You like go ice skating with some friends? He's like, no. Enloe's playing a hockey game. I'm like, excuse me? Enloe has a hockey team? When did this happen? It's like, oh, it's first time this year. So I started poking around. Sure enough, there's high school hockey being played. This is the first time it's happened. It's been a bunch of kids that said, let's do this. Let's start these club hockey teams. And it's pretty deep. There's double-digit teams all playing each other. The crowds have been pretty good at Wake Forest, at Invisalign Arena. And joining us now on the Heister Automotive Group hotline, the head coach of not just the Ice Pack, but also Middle Creek, Tim Healy, joining us now. Tim, what's going on, man?
Not too much. Great introduction. Yeah, it has been wild, the explosion of high school hockey in the last couple of months, but really it's been a long time in the making. And I think the coolest thing about this whole thing is that it's all student driven, right? It is all kid driven. And adults have talked about it for a long time down here, but they could never make it happen. The students themselves made it happen. And if you really go back, it was a group of students around the Gibbons team that really pushed this. And there's been some good adult guidance, but it was really them. And
sure.
Steve Esmaili and Brian Pincola, Wally Vikas, all, pushing this off the ground. And it almost went viral. It started with 6 teams originally, which is kind of fitting in hockey when you're talking the original 6, right? So
wait a minute. Is there a North Carolina original 6 now?
Yeah, we have it, So Gibbons and Holly Springs and Green Level, Leedsville and Apex and Wake Forest. And that was your core. And then it exploded to 18. And so that's been really exciting. Now, I think the one thing, all these buildings almost all nights have been packed. I had the pleasure of coaching against the Enloe team in a packed building at the Raleigh Iceplex. And I think we need to stop being surprised in Raleigh and in North Carolina when we have sold out hockey events, right? This is who we are. Our community loves hockey. They can't get enough of it. And it's just been exciting.
So Tim Healy's joining us. He's the head coach of NC State's club hockey team, the Ice Pack, and Middle Creek High School. And yeah, I agree with you. I mean, you and North Carolina's club hockey team played. What was it like? What was the final tally? The unofficial tally? Like 24,000 people showed up at Carter Finley Stadium for a free hockey game.
26 plus.
26 plus. Is that what it was? Okay.
Let's
Okay, no. Hey, take all the numbers because it kind of helps prove your point. So I guess the part that I was curious about is, I guess, the dynamics of hockey versus other sports, right? So hockey is expensive. I know this because I have a son who plays hockey.
Scored maybe the nicest goal against my daughter's team this spring.
This is true. He finally punched through. That goal was a long time coming, man. A long time coming. But it's as I've kind of gone through this youth hockey journey, I'm realizing just how limited ice time is, how expensive it is. The barrier for entry to get this thing going is pretty high compared to, say, basketball or the infrastructure that we have in North Carolina for other sports like football. So, when you say it's a long time coming, what would you say was the biggest barrier? Is it something as simple as there's not enough sheets of ice in this area?
I think a couple things. I think there is certainly the ice issue, but I think there is also some of the adults that were pushing for it were trying to push for it in the winter, which that was never going to happen. And once it became in the spring, it really, and people came to that conclusion and the students pushed for it. They got the teams together. They brought it forward. And I have to give a lot of credit to Mike Baxter up there at Wake Competition Center in Polar, because he actually made it pretty easy for the kids once they got going, one-stop shopping. You put it in, they supplied the refs, they supplied the insurance, they supplied the timekeepers. So there was that when they came forward, and there was this momentum for it and viral. It's like, okay, so how do we put a little bit of structure around it for it to happen? And I think the other thing too in this spring was everyone wanted to see a little bit of proof of concept. And certainly there's proof of concept. And I think the exciting part is we know it works in the spring. You actually do have the ice in the spring. Rates are nominally cheaper in the spring. I'm not going to say they're a lot cheaper in the spring, but they are cheaper. But the ice time availability is there, and that's certainly the biggest thing come spring.
I was going to say, you said the biggest barrier. I'm sitting here thinking it has to be money, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, baseball's expensive. Baseball's expensive. Baseball's just as expensive.
Insurance wise?
Wait, what do you mean insurance wise?
Like to actually play, and aren't you in charge, Tim? Isn't, or is it a parent or whoever in charge of actually getting the player to sign off to play?
We are. Well, I mean, we are. The nice part is the way that the insurance got rolled up in here for this. It actually ended up only being $250 per team. Now, part of that is we weren't playing a lot of games. I think next year you'll see that go up. And, next year the conversation is about a 10-game season in the spring. I think looking at that, your budget-wise would be, because you're still not going to do a ton of practices, probably one practice, 1 or 2 games a week. I think your budget-wise next year will be somewhere between $7,500 and $10,000, which isn't cheap. Don't get me wrong. It's not cheap at all, but it's doable. And they showed this year. I mean, some teams got up to 7 games this year. We got up to 3, and they just kind of ran out of time in the spring. I think next year, looking at doing it from the end of March, ending up before Memorial Day, I think this is exciting. What you're going to have, and WRIL and Overtime Plus, I was actually talking to someone last night about it on a Friday night, and in not too distant future, you are going to have Wake Forest playing their rival Heritage on a Friday night in Wake Forest, and that venue is going to be full. At the same time, you're going to have Green Level and Green Hope playing in WCC Invisalign, and that venue will be full. At the same time, once we get Holly Springs open, you'll have Holly Springs playing their rival Middle Creek, and that venue will be full. So we will get to almost like a Friday Night Lights thing very soon, where you'll have 3 venues all full around the same time, which is exciting.
Tim Haley is joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline. He's the NC State Ice Pack coach. He's the high school coach at Middle Creek, and I'll occasionally see him around for Junior Canes things. I was going to say, I guess we can go full disclosure here because Jacob's new Junior Canes squad is actually coached by Tim's goalie coach for the Ice Pack. See, hockey's a very, very tight community, as I'm coming to find out. Like, everybody knows everybody at some point. And this is my way to lead to, how do the Carolina Hurricanes fit into all of this? I've asked you about the Carolina Hurricanes in relation to the Ice Pack. I mean, I can't imagine that the Hurricanes, who are these are customers, better hockey, more of the culture coming through means more people wanting to go to games and invest in the Carolina Hurricanes. So what's their role in all this? I mean, can we envision a situation where you can have high school games being played at PNC Arena once the Canes are out of the playoffs?
I think so. You would have to ask Shane Willis that, but I think Shane Willis would be supportive of it. And Shane Willis already has been supportive of it. What I can envision is around Philadelphia for their high school championship, they have the Flyers Cup. I think it may have been changed now to the Ed Snyder Cup. If not, it should be. If any Philadelphians out there will appreciate that one. But I could see something where the Canes getting behind it and the high school champion, it's the Canes Cup. Similar that you have in Philadelphia and some other places. I think Nashville actually has the same thing. As far as getting at PNC, that's a little bit dicier, right? It would be dependent upon the Canes having a long cup run, because we're talking about finishing around Memorial Day, because spring does make sense here. And I think that's where it will stay. And so I could see the Canes getting invested in it that way. The promotion of it, the PR of it. They've already certainly been supportive of it with helping with up there at WCC. So I think you could see them getting involved with the sponsorship of it. It would be great to have the finals at PNC. That's always a little bit, even I know from getting our game scheduled at PNC for NC State, there's a lot of factors that go into it. And so it's not as easy as I think people think sometimes. If you have that, you had Stevie Nicks in there in May, right? And that's going to be scheduled out long before our stuff. So
right.
You have those. Right. So it's a little, but the Canes are behind it. There's no question about it. You have Don Waddell out. You can ask him after me.
You know what? I'll ask him after the fact. That's what I'll do.
Tim, as someone who loves to get credit for his ideas, but almost never does. Can you help me out here? Did the NHL send you a thank you card for the upcoming outdoor games in New Jersey next February, where we'll have the Flyers and Devils on a Saturday, and then the Rangers Islanders on a Sunday? Where did they get that idea from? I wonder.
You know, I will say this, I've heard from a ton of college and club teams up there already about it. Like, how did you do this? How did you pull it off? You know, I hope they all get on the ice. My honest opinion is I'm not sure they'd ever get the crowd that we got with UNC, because there really is something special in the sauce right now in hockey in the Raleigh area. And obviously when you have NC State, UNC, that adds to it. You know, I was actually, but Julio, to your point, actually speaking to someone in the NHL after it, he goes, you know, we've been to Notre Dame, we've been to Michigan, we've been to Fenway. And he goes, those were all cool venues. He goes, this was just an experience like no other. And he just kept coming back that it was such an experience and it was awesome. And it was like nothing that they had before.
Tim, appreciate the time. Good information on high school hockey here in the area. I think it's great. I think it's cool that the students are supporting it. I think, what was it? Stumbled upon a Hawaiian themed night at Wake Competition Center on a random Friday night. While my kid was practicing over on the red rink. So it's cool. And if the high school kids are behind it, then it's only going to grow from there. So appreciate the time.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.